8 spine-chilling trucker tales. Discover the sinister secrets of an empty highway. I wasn't alone. Jason gripped the steering wheel tight, the isolation of Route 66 wrapping around him like a suffocating fog. The twilight sky was a swirling mass of gray, giving him a sense of impending dread. Each mile felt like a heartbeat, pounding in his ears, drowning out every other sound. He longed for home, his children's laughter, the warmth of his wife's embrace, the comfort of homemade dinners. Instead, he was swallowed by the road, tearing through endless stretches of asphalt in the night. He cranked up the radio, searching for anything to cut through the oppressive silence. At first, it crackled with static, but then a voice broke through. It sounded almost familiar, echoing back to him from a dark place in his memory. "You passed by the old diner last week, Jason." It hissed, sending chills down his spine. But how could it know? Wasn't he just tired? The unease settled in, creeping like a thin mist into his thoughts. He glanced in the passenger mirror and felt an unnatural prickle at the back of his neck. Was someone watching him? Ahead, flickering neon lights pierced the dense night. The old diner that had haunted Jason's past loomed up, its very structure crying out against the weight of secrets buried deep in the earth. His heart raced as the memory of a crumpled missing persons poster flew into his mind, the face of a girl from his hometown, gone without a trace. "Don't linger," his friends' voices warned, echoing in his head. But he drove on, pulled by something he couldn't comprehend. Before he knew it, the voice returned, this time more sinister. It wove through the radio waves like a snake in the grass. "They're not safe. They're never safe," it taunted, each word laced with a menace that twisted his stomach in knots. Jason's skin prickled with the weight of its implications, the enormity of the threat pressing down harder than the worn-out tires of his rig. Suddenly, a flash of headlights appeared in his rearview mirror, a shadowy figure tailing him through the dark. Panic seized his heart. Were they following him or merely a figment of his imagination? Spurred by paranoia, he pressed down harder on the accelerator. The highway morphed into a racing track of despair, his mind spiraling as he wrestled the fear boiling inside him. This was his territory, yet it felt like a trap. And as the tailgater's light flickered closer, the question hung in the air: how well did he really know the people around him? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jason's eyes darted back to the rearview mirror, dread constricting his chest like a vice. The silhouette of the pursuing car was so close now, like a predator hungry for its next meal. He could no longer just see the car, it felt like the driver could see him, too, each twist of fate drawing them closer. His heartbeat echoed in his ears as the voice continued, unveiling secrets that shattered his grip on reality. "They're waiting for you just like I am," it whispered, a laughter curling around the edges of each syllable. The wash of black asphalt surged beneath him, the heartbeat of the road morphing into something living, something aware. The tailing car suddenly swerved, disappearing into the darkness. But Jason could feel the presence still lingering. The silence fell heavy around him, as though the night had held its breath, and he could only wonder, was he ever truly alone? And how much longer would the torment continue as he raced home, racing against the very darkness that seemed to conspire against him? The darkness thickened as Jason barreled forward, the distant glow of the diner fading in his rearview. The road stretched endlessly ahead, a serpent weaving through the void. But the unsettling feeling persisted, like a shadow slithering just out of view. The radio crackled again, sending a jolt of cold terror coursing through him. "You shouldn't have come back," the voice whispered, as if it clawed its way from the depths of the earth itself. Jason's breath quickened. He slammed a hand on the dashboard, as if he could silence the intrusion with sheer force. But the voice only taunted him more mercilessly. They can't wait to see you not far now. With every mile, the emptiness of the highway twisted into a purgatory. Each signpost and flickering streetlight only fed his anxiety, warping his sense of time and space. Nightmares danced at the corners of his mind, flashes of the girlish face, staring blankly from the missing poster, interspersed with memories of laughter turned to screams. A sudden movement flickered at the edge of his vision. Was it the headlights again? He glanced at the mirror, feeling the icy grip of fear tighten around him. No, just a trick of the moonlight, he rationalized, forcing himself to breathe. But then there it was again, a dark form swaying in and out of view on the shoulder of the road. Jason's heart dropped. Was something out there? He pressed on the gas, but the shadow pursued him, gaining with each passing moment. The highway seemed to hum beneath him, its voice mingling with the rising panic in his chest. He needed to make it home. Now more than ever, he needed to escape this nightmare. In his rearview mirror, he caught a glimpse of it. A figure, cloaked in black, unmoving, but ever-present. A lump formed in his throat as he fought the urge to scream. Had it always been there? Had it been watching him, waiting for the right moment? Suddenly, a loud bang echoed against the cabin of the truck, startling him. His heart rate soared as he fought to regain control, wheels screeching against the asphalt. A rock had hit the windshield. No, it was a stone, flung from the night itself. He couldn't shake the unbearable feeling that it was deliberate. Who or what had thrown it? The voice on the radio suddenly shifted tone, growing louder, more chaotic. One way or another, you'll face it, it shrieked. The world outside became a blur. Branches whipped at the windows like claws, and the truck jolted along the winding highway as if guided by some malevolent force. Jason shuddered, willing himself to focus. He needed a decision, a way to escape the madness clawing at his sanity. He glanced at the empty diner, its neon lights sputtering like dying fireflies in the night. Why did I stop? The question echoed in his mind, spiraling into impending doom. As shadows closed in around him, he realized he had two choices. Keep driving into the unknown or stop at the diner, the very place where his worst memories lay dormant, waiting to erupt. Both paths held dark secrets, but which one would offer salvation, and which would seal his fate? With trembling hands, he wrested control of the steering wheel, conflicted as he hurtled toward an uncertain future. As the shadows gathered, he fought against the fear. Would he dare confront the memories or continue to flee into the abyss? In that critical moment, a deafening crack of thunder tore through the sky. The downpour began, heavy and relentless, masking his racing thoughts. But one question lingered in the chaos. Which nightmare awaited him next? Rain pounded down like 1,000 tiny knives, tearing at the windshield, making it nearly impossible to see. The sound roared like a herd of wild animals. Each beat made his heart race faster, drowning out the frantic whispers from the radio. The chorus of chaos rattled him, yet anxiety clawed at his insides. Where was that shadow? Jason squinted into the deluge, trying to make sense of the blur. Was he truly alone out there? Did he really want to find out? With a deep breath, he slammed on the brakes, the tires screaming against the wet road, sending him into a sharp skid. A cloud of water erupted around him, momentarily obscuring everything. He was aware of his heart pounding in his chest. He glanced in all directions, fully expecting to see that cloaked figure emerging from the mist. Slowly, he reached for the door handle, every inch of his body warning him to stay put. But he felt a pull, like an invisible thread yanking him toward the edge of that abyss. He stepped into the storm. Heavy drops cascaded off his face, mixing with the sweat of fear. The dim light of the diner flickered in the distance, beckoning to him. Should he venture inside? Or should he dive headfirst back into the truck, where that darkness might still swallow him? His instincts screamed run, but the need for answers rooted him to the ground. Taking one cautious step, then another, he crossed over the slick asphalt. The diner doors creaked open, an unsettling welcome, revealing an unsettling emptiness inside. The flickering neon buzzed mechanically. He could barely contain the bile rising in his throat. The smell was rotten, stale, like decay. "Anyone here?" he called, the sound swallowed by the vast silence. Jason hesitated, and then stepped further inside, the weariness of his heart echoing along with the pattering rain outside. His footsteps reverberated across the tiled floor as he moved deeper, every corner of the room shrouded in shadow. Tables lay scattered with abandoned plates, utensils crusted over, as if people had left in a hurry, the remnants of their meals untouched. Help me," a voice wheezed somewhere back in the kitchen. It was thin and desperate, just below the threshold of detection, like a wisp of smoke teased by a gust of wind. Panic surged through him, but against his better judgment, he took a step toward the source. The kitchen door creaked ajar, revealing a sliver of darkness and more silence. He peered into the gloom, trying to catch a glimpse of whoever was in trouble. Nothing. A shiver crawled down his spine, warning him to retreat, but fear tangled with curiosity. "Hello? Is anyone in there?" he said, his voice trembling now in response. A chilling laugh echoed a high, melodic sound that dripped like poison. "Oh, Jason, they've been waiting for you." The air turned icy. Panic erupted within him as he turned heel to flee, colliding with a figure materializing from the shadows. It was the cloaked figure. Tall, imposing, its face obscured. It twitched slightly as if aware of his terror. "Why did you come back?" it hissed. The raspy voice wrapped around his throat like a noose. The diner felt like it was closing in on him, squeezing his thoughts and spiraling him into an abyss. "Leave me alone," Jason shouted, pushing past, bursting back into the rain. But the storm was no salvation. Shadows writhed, pulling him deeper into their grasp as he staggered toward his truck, breathless. He heard a low growl rising from behind him. The darkness bristled. The figure followed him, step by unsettling step. Gravel crunched as the lights of his truck flickered, revealing multiple figures tightening around him. Jason's heart thrashed. There was nowhere left to run. Yet there was one last option. To face them, to confront the terror, or be consumed by the impending dread that clawed at his sanity. With determination, he turned around, heart racing, ready to confront whatever nightmare awaited him. But then, a whisper of familiar voice cut through the night. "You shouldn't have come back." What had he truly returned to? The answer might be more horrifying than he could ever comprehend. Jason faced the cloaked figure, his mind racing. The shadows pulsed around them, drumming in rhythm with his racing heart. "What do you want from me?" he shouted, though the words felt hollow in the thick air. He could barely breathe. The figure tilted its head, its obscured face twisting into a twisted grin. "To show you what you always avoided." Before Jason could process the words, he heard laughter, a chorus rising from the shadows. It swirled around him, mocking, echoing through the storm. He stumbled back, eyes darting to the figures gathering behind the cloaked one, each form more grotesque than the last. They wore faces Jason recognized, faces twisted in horror. Friends, people he had known, all warped into nightmarish visages. No, he muttered, shaking his head. "This isn't real." But even as he said it, he could feel the overwhelming weight of dread pressing down on his shoulders, threatening to crush him. "Isn't it?" The cloaked figure stepped closer, the air freezing around it. Suddenly, the door of the diner slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping him outside in the growing circle of malevolence. The rain pounded harder, but the figures remained eerily still, their eyes boring into him, studying every inch of his terror. "Come and see it," beckoned, voice dripping with scorn. "You're not alone, Jason. You never were." A burst of adrenaline kicked in. He turned to run, feet pounding against the gravel. But one swift motion, and the shadows surged forward, their cold fingers grasping at him. With every step he took, they coiled tighter around his limbs, threatening to drag him back into their depths. "You'll never escape your past," the figure shrieked, laughter transforming into a blood-curdling wail as they lunged toward him. Jason's heart sank to his stomach. Each figure clawed at him, every grim face an embodiment of his regrets. He felt the pull of despair, an all-consuming dread. It wanted him to succumb, to give in to the stories left untold. When he looked back, their faces twisted into the memory of every moment he had tried to forget. "Please," he cried, voice cracking. "Let me go." In that moment, he realized what he had avoided all along. The heavy weight of his choices, the decisions that led him here, to this cursed storm. The shadows flickered, and for just a heartbeat, he caught sight of the diner again, the flickering lights, the empty booths, the unspent meals. It was a trap, waiting for him to give in to his fear. But Jason wasn't done fighting. He took a shaky breath and tore one hand free from the suffocating grip, thrusting it toward the diner's door. "I want to let you take me," he roared, his voice slicing through the night. The rage churned within him, fueling his will to break free. The figures recoiled, shadows shrieking as their grip loosened, even if just temporarily. Birds scattered in the distance, their cries lost in the storm. He turned back toward the diner, determined. "If you want a piece of me, you'll have to work for it." Using all his strength, he sprinted toward the door. But as he did, the shadows lunged again, slithering across the ground toward him, cold and ravenous. A blinding flash of lightning illuminated the scene, revealing not only the horrified faces of those bound to him by fate, but something else lurking behind them. Something far older, far darker, and far more horrific. What was that? Jason whispered, heart hammering in his chest again. A new terror gripped him. These weren't just memories. They were a warning that as the storm raged on, the laughter transformed into a deep chorus, shaking him to his core. He realized he wasn't just facing the past, something was awakening. What could be worse than the shadows in his mind? What other horrors waited beyond the veil? In the deepest part of the storm, something pushed back. And it was hungry. Would he find the strength to confront them all? Or would he just become another face lost to the darkness? Jason's heart raced as he hurled himself towards the diner. It loomed closer, its once friendly facade now resembling a gaping maw, ready to swallow him whole. The shadows shrieked and twisted around him, flaying at the edges of his courage with relentless claws. He made it to the door, but a sudden jolt halted him. Cold fingers encircled his ankle, dragging him to the ground with brutal force. He clawed at the gravel, the pain tearing through his palms as the darkness pulled him back toward the grotesque chorus that awaited. The figures loomed closer, their faces shifting in and out of clarity, each grinning with a sick pleasure at Jason's despair. "Run!" A voice roared from within the diner's gloom. It was faint, almost drowned out by the cacophony of laughter and agony. Jason recognized it. It was Linda, his childhood friend, the one he had let down so many years ago. "Linda!" he screamed. Another flash of lightning illuminated the diner's windows just long enough to show her face haunted, pale, and agonized. "Don't look back, Jason. You have to." The lightning struck, slicing through the sky. In the harsh glare, Jason saw something else. A sprawling creature, gargantuan and sinuous, writhed just past the forms of his lost loved ones. It breathed shadows, the very essence of fear. He could feel its breath on his neck, cold and deathly, with a surge of adrenaline. He jerked his leg free and staggered to his feet. He slammed his palm against the diner's door, forcing it open in a desperate bid for sanctuary. The hinges groaned against the storm as he stumbled inside, gasping for air as the comforting smell of stale coffee washed over him. "Help me!" he shouted into the dimly lit space, but only silence responded. The booths were emptied, tables overturned, and the flickering lights buzzed like angry hornets. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, an eerie calm had settled. Jason turned, eyes wide with dread as he blocked the door behind him, his breath heavy and ragged. The shadows pressed against the windows, clawing at the glass as the figures outside began to writhe in frustration. "Face your fears," Jason, the cloaked figure's voice echoed through the empty diner, sending chills down his spine. The shadows finally broke through the windows with shattering glass, jagged shards raining down, glinting in the dim light like teeth. "Linda!" he screamed again, but a deafening silence answered. He dared not move, rooted in place by the weight of loss and regret that filled the air like the stench of decay. Shadows coiled around the diner's interior, creeping back toward him, distorting reality with every second. He felt their cold breath against his skin as he glanced out one of the broken windows. Terror gripped him anew. A writhing mass of darkness loomed outside, twisting and rolling like smoke but far more sinister. It wasn't just memories anymore. It was something alive, something sentient, and it was drawing closer with each heartbeat. Jason's body screamed for him to flee, to find a way out of this nightmare, but the shadows thickened around him. "Why are you here?" They seemed to whisper. "You wanted to forget, didn't you?" Grief clawed at him, guilt coursed through his veins, and he felt the urge to collapse under the weight. But in the depths of desperation, a spark ignited. If he was going to confront this horror, he would do it on his terms. He took a bold step forward, trembling but resolute. "I'm not running anymore," he shouted, voice echoing in the empty diner. Suddenly, the shadows froze. The creature outside hesitated, as though it sensed his resolve. Then, a single figure stepped forward, a twisted grin spreading across its monstrous features. It was Linda, or at least what used to be Linda, her face now a mask of despair and malice. "Welcome back, Jason," she hissed, voice dripping with darkness. "You thought it was over?" In that moment he understood. It wouldn't end until he faced every part of his haunted past. Before he could react, the diner trembled, walls buckling inward, a dark pressure threatening to collapse around him. Face them, Jason, or perish. The storm outside howled, pressing in against his sanity. What would he find if he opened that door again? What awaited him on the other side of this living nightmare? With one last shuddering breath, Jason realized then the real battle was about to begin. Would he muster the courage to confront the shadows, or would they consume him entirely? Jason's heart thundered in his chest as the warm aroma of coffee mingled with the bitter scent of fear. The lights flickered ominously above, casting faint shadows that danced across the walls like whispers of his past. He felt trapped between two worlds: the diner, with all its desolate memories, and the nightmare crouching just outside. "Face your fears." Beads of sweat dripped down his brow. He turned to where Linda stood, her form more solid now, twisted and shadowed. "What do you want from me?" he demanded, rage and despair mixing in his voice. "Don't you see? You can't escape. You left me." The words hung heavy in the air, dripping with accusation. The shadows behind her pulsed like a living thing, eager to ensnare him. He clenched his fists, the sharp sting of guilt biting at his resolve. "No, I can't keep living with this," Jason shouted, each word a promise to himself. He stepped back from Linda, his pulse racing as he drew closer to the darkness pooling at the edge of the diner. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted outside. Jason jolted, whipped around as heavy footsteps thundered against the wood. Shadows poured through the broken windows, a wave of dark intent surging toward him. "You chose this, Jason," they called, their voices a cacophony of terror. "You brought us here." He spotted an old booth, its cracked plastic still holding remnants of ketchup and mustard. On pure instinct, he bolted toward it, hoping for anything to defend himself. In a wild rush, he flipped the booth's heavy table, using it as a barrier. The cold touch of metal was a small comfort against the encroaching horror. The shadows writhed, coiling around each other like serpents. They were desperate, clawing at the air, whispering promises that echoed deep in the recesses of his mind. "Remember," Jason's breath quickened as fragments of memories surged. Laughter at the diner, promises shared, secrets whispered. And then, the burning humiliation of failure. "No, please," he muttered. But the shadows were relentless. They closed in tighter, hungry for his remorse. "Face us." Linda's voice sliced through the chaos. Her form flickered, eyes gleaming with a dreadful light. "You can't hide from who you are. Why are you doing this?" he rasped, pressing himself against the booth. "I didn't want any of this." A brutal laugh erupted from the shadows. "And yet, you chose to forget. We are your burdens, Jason. We are your truth." Shaking with fear, Jason glanced at the frayed edges of his resolve. There had to be a way out, he told himself. Maybe if he could unlock whatever held him hostage here. He could. The lights flickered violently, and then all went dark, plunging him into pitch silence. In that oppressive blackness, even the shadows seemed to retreat, waiting that he strained to hear anything. His breath shallow and rapid. Then he felt it, a chill crawling up his spine, sinking into his bones, the overwhelming certainty that he was not alone. Something was watching, lurking just out of sight. Face your fears, the whisper came, closer this time, intimate. Every nerve in his body screamed to run, but Jason found himself frozen. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the diner in an eerie glow. The booth was empty, but the shadows around him swayed, as if they were now alive with a purpose. For a brief moment he thought he saw movement in the corner of his eye by the exit sign, a flicker, a shadow dancing just out of reach. Are you ready to confront the truth? Linda's voice echoed, more haunting than before, layered with sorrow. He tightened his grip. This wasn't just a battle for survival. This was the war against his very soul. The door loomed before him. Could he summon what was needed to push through? The dread churned in his gut like a storm, and in his mind shadowy memories of the past threatened to break free as he stood there, caught in the tension between the darkness outside and his purpose within. He felt the weight of it all, the past, the guilt, the gnawing fear. And then the door creaked open, just the slightest crack. The storm outside roared in fury, as if beckoning him to embrace the unknown. Did he dare? Would he step into the chaos once more? Or would he be consumed by the shadows that had come to claim him? The choice was no longer his alone. With a deep breath, Jason took a step forward, as the entities called to him from the void, inviting him to find out what lay beneath the surface of his deepest fears. Jason hesitated, the crack in the door gaping like a hungry maw. The storm outside screamed, matching the turmoil inside him. But now those shadows surged forward, crawling closer, their hands reaching out, begging him to step into their embrace. He could feel a weight pressing against his chest, as if the entire diner molded itself around him, suffocating. Jason, you can't keep running, the words dripped from Linda's lips, slurring with grief and anger. He could almost see the pain of betrayal etched across her tormented face, and it twisted something deep inside him. He stepped back again, heart racing. Running? I'm not running. I just don't know what to do. His voice trembled. What could he possibly do against the tide of anguish that threatened to drown him? A sudden, deafening crash shattered the moment, drawing him back. The windows quaked as the wind howled like a beast hungry for flesh. Outside, the world had become a swirling mass of shadows and rain, everything chaotic and alive in the darkness. He had to make a choice. The edge of the booth felt solid against his back, a reminder that he still had something to cling to in this unseen nightmare. Remember the night we crashed? Linda's voice chilled him, clawing at his mind. You never looked back. You left it all behind. You left me. Memories surged forth, screaming metal, splintering glass, shattered lives. It crushed him to recall that aching moment of horror, the moment he thought he saw her slip from his grasp. The guilt swallowed him whole, pulling him into its depths. No, he shouted, furious at the memory, furious at her ghost. I didn't want any of this. I didn't mean to forget. Face the truth. The shadows hissed, twisting and morphing around him like a living nightmare. You can't escape what you've done. The diner seemed to breathe, walls pulsing with malevolence. Jason felt the weight of the accusation like a physical entity pressing him down. He had to escape the clutches of this torment. He dashed toward the door, driven by desperation. But as he reached for the handle, the heavy thud of footsteps echoed behind him. Don't run. A voice boomed, familiar yet distorted. He turned to see a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness. It towered over him, the silhouette shaped like someone he once knew but grotesquely twisted, every feature exaggerated in mockery. Derek? He gasped, recognizing the form of a friend lost to the depths of their shared past. But what glinted in his eyes was not compassion. It was something darker, hungry. You shouldn't have left. You think we forget? We'll never forget. Jason stumbled back, fear gripping him tighter than any embrace. The figure stepped closer, each movement fluid, unsettling. Shadows twisted behind Derek, drawing cycles of despair and loss. Jason's mind raced. He couldn't let this overwhelming rush of horror consume him. He needed to fight back. "I'm not afraid of you," he yelled, bolstered by sudden clarity, refusing to let the past drag him under. But each word felt like a whisper in a hurricane, barely reaching beyond himself. Just then, the lights flickered unstable, and a surge of icy air blasted through the diner, extinguishing the remaining warmth. Jason's heart raced as every shadow writhed under the dim glow, agitating like a swarm ready to strike. "What are you going to do?" Derek taunted, advancing, his form melting into the darkness. "You think you can run? You think you can hide? We will follow you down every path, every road until you face your own truth." Jason's resolve began to falter as he realized the full weight of what Derek's words meant. This wasn't just about Linda or the accident or the guilt. They were shadows of everyone he had abandoned, lost dreams, specters of lives intertwined in darkness. Suddenly, the door burst open, rain flooding in, washing over his shoes. In that moment, Jason felt a flicker of something else. Hope? No, a fleeting notion of survival. He spun back toward the shadows, determination igniting within him. "Maybe you can haunt me, but you won't own me." The storm howled as he took a step toward the door, the realization hitting him like a lightning bolt. Facing his fears meant confronting them head-on, not fleeing into the night. Were the shadows stronger than the truth? Or could he still find a way to break free? Outside, chaos awaited, but Jason was ready to embrace it all. As he thrusted forward, an air of defiance building, he heard Linda scream from behind, "You can't escape your past." Which haunted truths lay ahead? Would the storm outside consume him, or would it free him from the shackles of his mind? As he stepped into the rain, the darkness beckoned a world drenched in fears he had yet to face. Rain pounded down harder, hammering against the diner roof like a desperate plea for mercy. The cold droplets drizzled off his soaked hair, drenching his clothes, but it was nothing compared to the howl of wind that skirled through the night, wrapping around him like a ghostly embrace. Jason stepped into the disarray of the storm, every instinct screaming at him to turn back. But he couldn't. Thunder crackled overhead, illuminating the darkness in sudden flashes. For each brief moment, shadows danced wildly, twisting into grotesque forms, reminding him that he was not alone. The specters of his guilt lurked at the edges, whispering secrets he longed to forget. "Jason, come back!" Linda's voice echoed in his mind, a haunting melody of desperation. He clutched his head, trying to drown it out, but it seeped into his soul like poison. Each step he took forward felt heavy with regret, each heartbeat a reminder of the lives entwined with his. He pressed onward, battling the storm's wrath, eyes straining to see through the torrent. The highway stretched before him, a dark ribbon swallowed by night, the edges curling with fog. Every crack of lightning revealed something: bent trees, crumbled signs, and the constant hum of unseen dangers. Something scuttled in the shadows, a flash of movement that jolted him. Heart racing, he turned just in time to catch the glimpse of a figure disappearing down the road. Was it another specter from his past? Maybe a figment of his imagination? Panic surged, but he buried it. He couldn't afford fear right now. He needed answers, with every errant thought flooding his mind. Jason found himself following the figure, pushed into the shadows like a moth drawn to flame. He ran, splashing through puddles that reflected dark shapes overhead. The familiar urgency to escape surged back, a kind of primal instinct begging him to retreat. But the figure promised something: a clue, perhaps, a way to make sense of the chaos. As he turned a bend, he nearly stumbled over an object half buried in mud. A crumpled jacket. The fabric was familiar, a denim blue he had once shared with Derek. Heart sinking, he picked it up, fingers trembling. What was left here? The questions swarmed like a swarm of gnats, relentless and biting. "Is this your doing?" He shouted into the void, rage and fear mingling in his voice. The wind howled back, twisted words carried away into the dark, mocking him. But then, from behind came a low growl. Jason's spine chilled, and he turned, heart pounding in his chest. The figure reappeared, a monstrous silhouette against the rain-soaked street. But this time its face was illuminated between the flashes of lightning. Shock and recognition flooded him. Derek, he breathed, stepping back involuntarily as horror washed over him. The man's face was twisted in anguish, eyes gleaming with something sinister, an invitation. A challenge? Face it, Jason. Derek's voice roared like thunder crashing through the backdrop of the storm. You can't escape us. We're a part of you. Fear coursed through Jason. He once considered Derek a friend, a brother molded by shared darkness. But now he felt only betrayal. Behind them, the shadows swirled, more tangible now, undulating like a dark sea, ready to engulf him. Voices whispered, taunting and accusing. Feel the weight of your sins. Jason's heart hammered against his ribcage, a wild drum echoing through the chaos. The figure from the shadows lunged forward, a predator ready to devour its prey. Instinct kicked in. Desperation took hold. I won't let you take me, he shouted, turning to run. But his darkness followed him, crawling, stretching, reaching. He sprinted, the pounding rain blurring the lines of road, but every step felt futile. Around him, the storm seemed to pulse with life, echoing his inner turmoil. Would he ever escape it all? Was this reckoning meant to consume him? As he raced forward, the faint sound of laughter rang out, the echoes of his companions lost to the past. Would he be swallowed by their shared sins, or could he break free from their grasp and uncover the truth awaiting behind the shadows? What lay ahead? Would confronting his past grant him freedom, or was he already too far lost in the darkness? Each breath he took felt heavier as he launched into the night, the oppressive weight of ghosts chasing him relentlessly. But he had to know. He had to find out what awaited him in those haunted depths. The rain pounded like a relentless drummer, echoing the chaos in Jason's mind. The shadows behind him grew closer, whispers swirling in the gusts of wind. He can't escape, they taunted, a cold chill settling in his bones. He sprinted faster, his breath coming in quick, ragged gasps. Ahead, the distant glow of headlights pierced the storm. A truck. Relief surged through him, but it was swallowed almost immediately by dread. The laughter, haunting and familiar, wrapped around him like a noose. He stumbled forward, desperate for salvation. But the damning memories of the past surged forward as thick as the fog. Jason, a voice called out, rising above the storm. This time it wasn't Derek, it was Linda. He froze. Help me, she cried, a haunting echo, as if she were caught in the downpour itself. No, he pressed his hands against his ears. But the sound couldn't be silenced. He had failed her once. He couldn't do it again. Ignoring the instinct screaming at him to run, he turned back, searching for her. The figure formed from the shadows, taking shape like a nightmare birthed from moonlight. It was a twisted version of Derek, his features grotesque, mouthing silent words that morphed into screams. Jason's heart raced as he took off in the opposite direction, drenched in dread. Each step felt heavier, as if the very ground sought to pull him down into an abyss of regret. The icy wind clawed at his face, promising that giving in would be easier. But deep within, a flicker of defiance burned. Not today, he chanted under his breath, urging his limbs to move faster. He reached the edge of the highway, the asphalt glimmering like fresh blood under the rain. Flickering lights from the truck drew nearer, illuminating the shadows that skulked in the corners of the night. It was as if the world had become a grotesque theater, and he was a prisoner in his own stage play, a twisted drama of betrayal and loss. Jason, Linda's voice echoed again, sending waves of panic coursing through him. He felt her presence tugging at him, urging him to listen, to find her. But could he trust it? Maybe it was yet another trick of the storm, another way the darkness sought to ensnare him. Suddenly, the truck came into full view. It was a hulking beast, its headlights cutting through the rain like knives. The driver, a shadowy figure hunched behind the wheel, appeared eerily still. Jason hesitated, fear gripping him. What if this was another sprawl of darkness waiting to swallow him whole? Before he could second-guess himself, Jason sprinted for the cab, waves of urgency driving him forward. He raised his arm, waving frantically as he reached the driver's side. "Help! I need help!" His words were drowned out by the storm's fury. The truck's door swung open with a creak, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. "Get in," the driver rasped, voice like gravel. Jason hesitated, glancing at the shadows behind him, the tortured faces of his past swirling, reaching for him. He faced the figure in the cab. Was this a savior or another tormentor? Sweat dripped down his back. His legs felt like lead, but the shadows writhed closer, snapping and clenching. He couldn't stay outside, not now. "Okay," Jason shouted, desperation lacing his tone as he leaped inside. The engine roared to life with a low rumble, a stark contrast to the storm's rage. As the truck started to roll, he turned to his savior. But the driver's face remained hidden, shrouded in darkness. "Where are we going?" he asked, heart racing with anticipation and terror. "To face your past," the driver replied, and Jason felt the weight of those words crash down. The shadows outside circled them, their laughter twisting in the air. Was it just the storm? Or was something more sinister lurking within? The rain began to coalesce, forming shapes just beyond the truck's windows, threatening to envelop him once more. "What are you hiding?" Jason demanded, his head spinning with confusion. The driver simply chuckled, a sound that sent chills straight through Jason's core. "You'll see." The truck careened into darkness, the road ahead, winding endlessly into the unknown. What awaited him in this murky journey? And who was this mysterious driver that seemed to know so much about him? As the laughter of the past echoed faintly behind them, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that the darkest secrets were yet to unfold. Jason sat stiff in the passenger seat as the storm raged outside, the truck's engine roaring against the heavy downpour. The driver's silhouette remained an enigma, cloaked in shadow, his voice grating like nails on a chalkboard. Every word felt like a bullet tearing through Jason's fragile composure. "To face your past," he had said. What did that mean? His mind was a whirlpool of panic and regret. But something told him that this was his moment to confront everything he had tried so hard to forget. The abandoned diner, the shadows, the faces of the lost, they all whispered promises of revelation in the dark corners of his mind. The road twisted like a serpent beneath them, the rain a relentless drum that threatened to drown out the sound of his own thoughts. "You know them, don't you?" Jason finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Who?" The driver replied, his head turning slightly. For the first time, a flicker of light caught the contours of a face that looked both familiar and terrifying. "Linda, Derek, everyone." Jason struggled to find the right words, a lump forming in his throat. This was the moment. "Yes, they are part of you. You've been running from them for too long," the driver stated, his tone conversational yet eerily devoid of warmth. Jason's chest tightened. "What do you mean? They're gone." The memories flooded back: the accident, the guilt, the night he watched the ambulance drive away without her. "Yes, they are lost in the dark, just like you were," the driver said solemnly. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed in the distance, making Jason nearly jump out of his seat. The truck swerved as the driver gripped the wheel. "Stay focused," he barked, as figures began to materialize outside, silhouettes warped by the rain and shadows. As Jason squinted, he recognized them: faint, tortured visages of the people he had abandoned in his mind. "Listen to them," the voice urged, and Jason felt a jolt run through him. He thought he saw Linda's face illuminated against the storm. "Jason," she called, voice breaking like glass. "No, I can't," he shouted, hands balled into tight fists. He squeezed his eyes shut. "I'm not ready." But it was too late. The truck came to a halt, the headlights illuminating a clearing filled with swirling smoke and darkness, an abyss waiting for him to step forward. The driver nodded. "This is where you confront your choices," Jason's pulse raced as he stepped out into the storm. Each drop that hit his skin felt electric, each shadow pulsing with his fear. The storm pressed in, cold and biting, as he took a deep breath, forcing himself to face the specters. "Why didn't you come back for me?" Linda's voice echoed from the depths of darkness. "You left me behind. Jason, I was scared," he shouted at the void. "I thought I could just move on. Forget." The figures crept closer, their shapes shifting in and out of recognition, each a fragment of his failures, an echo of his guilt. "You can't run away." Derek's voice rolled through the air, deep and accusing. "You've made your bed." Jason's chest tightened as the weight of memories crashed down. I know. Tears stung his eyes as he relayed the truth, voice trembling. "I never meant to hurt you. I tried to save you." Laughter rang out from the shadows, a cacophony that mingled with the wind. And yet, here we are. A cacophony of voices taunted, shadows swirling into a grotesque dance. "I came back," he yelled, stuffing emotion into every word. "I came back to find you. I'm ready to face what I did wrong." The shadows surged forward, enshrining him in their darkness, threatening to swallow him whole. Panic swept through him, but this time he stood firm against the tide. "No," he cried. "I won't be defined by my mistakes." Suddenly, the figures stopped, the storm quieting for a fleeting moment. A chill air wrapped around him, and there she was right in front of him. Linda, her face softening. "Do you mean that?" Her voice, no longer laced with anger, held a glimmer of hope. "I didn't come to forget." Jason spoke, voice firm. "I came to remember, to confront our past. I owe you that." The shadows lay still as if tasting the change in air. The diner shimmered into view from the ether, its lights flickering warmly in the distance. As if at his command, the darkness began to break apart, revealing a path through the storm. "Jason," Linda beckoned, her hand reaching out. "Open the door. Come back to us." With a final surge of will, he steadied himself. "I can't change what happened," he admitted, his voice breaking ever so slightly. "But I can accept it." In that moment, the shadows dissipated, and the storm began to quiet, the light of the diner illuminating the road to redemption. Jason stepped forward, heart pounding but filled with a rare clarity. "I'll face whatever remains," he vowed, stepping through the threshold, leaving the weight of his past behind. The road ahead glowed, beckoning him with the promise of resolution and the warmth of connection. And as he took the first steps into that light, he felt the whispers of the past transform into hopes for the future. In the end, confronting his fears didn't close the chapter, it opened a new one, teasing the possibility of healing and acceptance at last. So here's the moment you've been waiting for. If you want to join Jason on more adventures, you need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button because it truly helps the algorithm discover these journeys. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about Jason's experience and hit the share button. Don't wait even one more second to share this conclusion with at least 5 friends who need to see it. This is the moment to show your support and keep this community thriving.